Alright, getting another stream started. Welcome back. Tuco was just being really loud just a second ago. Do you want to leave? Yes, this is perhaps our intermittent touchscreen issue. Ah, interesting. Hey, Tuco. Hey, come on in. Yay. Okay. So this is a tool for DOS that we used on the last stream to change the parameters in the EEPROM for the touchscreen controller. And it took some tries to get it working. Needed to change the initial baud rate it was connecting at, and needed to end up using this memory reset mode because whatever was already in the EEPROM seemed suspect. And it was working for a while in the last stream. This seems to have loaded some sensible settings, but I don't see any touch data. Hey, Tuco. Just a sec. Yeah. All right, Tuco. Yeah, you're patient. Thank you. Oh, you hear some good birds. Yeah. Oh. So one theory I had was that maybe there was a GPIO that I needed to interact with in order to reset and or take out of reset this touch controller chip. I looked at the reset line some yesterday and it didn't seem to be in any sort of reset state ever. It was pretty normal. I tried using that to reset the micro. Not really sure if that helped. it's certainly possible there's just something either just like outright broken about this or like another design flaw that caused the touchscreen controller to not always initialize correctly. Anyway, one hole in that theory seems to be that this like hex dump printing thing, I need to look at the source code to see what it's actually doing, but I think it's just printing out the responses from the touchscreen controller after sending maybe a byte to it or something. And it seems to have 1 byte in it, which is a suspicious number. I would have expected either it to be fully working or it to have 0 bytes. So that's maybe a lead to chase. Either that's something about the tool I'm misunderstanding, or maybe that actually indicates that the touchscreen controller is crashing at some point instead of just being like completely in reset. Tuco, what did you find? Oh, there are squirrels out there today. I bet that's what he's getting. That's squirrel chattering. Tuco, did you find some cool squirrels? Those have got to be squirrels. I should have grabbed the reset pin while I was breaking stuff out. The touch controller chip does not seem to be in reset. I tried resetting it by poking it with the oscilloscope probe to ground, and it still is not responding. So, what else we got? How's the cat TV? Is there enough cat? I need to hook the oscilloscope probes back up to the serial at least, and I'll do a better job at grounding it so we should get a less noisy signal. Interesting. What? Oh, keyboard was stuck. Thanks, keyboard. Keyboard. Hey, Tuco, what do you see now? Whoa. Yeah, talk to me. Yeah, Tuco, that chair is basically yours now. Yeah. Meow. 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 Yes. Tuco, is this still about the squirrels? Yeah, Tuco, I'm paying attention. Gosh, honey. What are you saying all about? Yeah. Tuco. Gosh. Honey. Hey. Hey, Tuco, what do you want to do? Okay, Tuco's in a mood. Hardware settings, I guess. Oh. Yeah, so that's interesting. Last time I ran this SC3mon program, which seems to be basically a serial hex dump, it showed 06, which was, if I remember right, their acknowledge byte, but now it's showing nothing. So it does seem a bit like the touch controller is crashed and or inaccessible somehow. that communicated with it. Huh. So I almost wonder if there are a couple of separate problems here. Like maybe a problem with the drivers might have even been affecting the original firmware if there was like something unreliable about the EEPROM. But yeah, there was something bad about the contents of the EEPROM. It seems like it largely didn't matter to the original firmware because it was setting the settings that it wanted at boot up. But yeah, trying to run the normal DOS drivers, it's much more successful having the EEPROM set with sensible contents, but it's not always working. It seems like right now we're successfully communicating with the touchscreen controller, but still not getting any inputs, and I'm wondering if maybe there's a separate problem where maybe the touchscreen, like the analog touchscreen itself, is failing, or maybe there's a wiring problem. That was pretty much the first thing I checked when I was having intermittent touchscreen problems. Checking the wiring, and I didn't find any problems, but there might be an intermittent problem we haven't found yet. Tuco's sitting here in the dark. Now we got a response to whatever this sent. We got an acknowledge. Still no touch data. Let's try doing a calibration. Yeah. Well, now that we've got this serial breakout, I guess we should do a capture of like exactly what the original firmware is sending, because maybe it is different from what these drivers are doing in some important way. Or maybe the touchscreen is broken in the original firmware too. So I don't know how hard it's going to be to get the touchscreen working under the original firmware at this point. Just to get it back there, I'm going to have to, obviously switch the compact flash card, but also switch the hard disk mode in the BIOS back to the way it was. And so at this point, I've also changed the EEPROM in the touch controller versus what the original firmware expected. As far as I can tell, it's likely it doesn't seem to care what the settings already were in the EEPROM because it sends its own early in boot. But if it doesn't have an auto baud routine, it's not even going to be able to get that far. So it might be that we actually have to reset this. But I'm going to go to the original firmware once just to see what it does in this situation. Quickly go through setup. Hey, Tuco. I hear you, boy. Whoa, don't step on that. Aw. Tuco loves that backyard. That looked bi-directional. Hey, Tuco. What are you interested in right now? Okay, well, I should look closer at what just happened, but that looked a lot like successfully initializing the touch controller. So maybe the original firmware is having the same issue as DOS, where it can communicate with the controller, but the controller is not registering any touches. Hey, Tuco, what you doing? What are you talking about? Hey. 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 Tiger. Potate. Fuzzy bean. Purring little puppy. Is that better? You're just gonna lick yourself now? Alright. verify this baud rate. Yeah. That's our 1200 baud cursor from earlier, which still fits. So yeah, it looks like whatever it did at startup managed to at least be capable of detecting the initial state of the controller and getting it into the baud rate it wants. Oh. To go. Duke. Such cat. Cat's much more interesting than this thing booting. Okay. This looks like what we were seeing earlier. So there's power on, and then this next step is an ACK that the device doesn't answer, which we were seeing. And here's an ACK that does get an answer. And then we have several setup packets. We'll have to look up what these are. I'm not leaving enough room in that buffer. Okay. So other than this initial failed ACK, we were just seeing a single burst of commands. So I'll have to set up the scope a little differently to capture that. Beep beep. Gosh, this voting machine boots so slow for everything being on flash memory, right? There's got to be either just something that's buggy or failing that it's hitting during boot up for it to be this slow. So this chip that I've got under the hot glue blob is an OEM part from 3M, which they sold as a companion for their plastic resistive touchscreen panels. And they also had a driver package for this and some documentation, which is what I'm using to try to get this thing running right now. It's got a configuration EEPROM, which you can see right above the chip, and that's what we've been fussing with these tools. It's connected to one of the COM ports. It's got a total of 3 serial ports on the board. There's a 3.3 volt serial port on the system on chip, which this is connected to, and then there are a couple of 5 volt serial ports which go to level shifters, RS-232 level shifters, and then those go to external ports. Okay, well, it's at the main menu and still not responding to touch. Got so far. Okay. Basically just this. So this is the ACK that we don't get a response to. It seems normal from all the traces I've seen so far, but I don't know if that's an indication that something's wrong or if this is always normal. And then there's another ACK that does get a response. The responses aren't decoding correctly here because they're the opposite polarity, and my scope only does 1 polarity per serial bus, and I haven't configured a second serial bus just for that. So that's all we got, actually, just 2 configuration packets. This is such a ridiculous design, right? So the controller is dealing with these relatively high frequency and quite precise analog signals to try to resolve positions on the touchscreen. And of course, the folks who designed this voting machine run the those analog touchscreen signals over a long cable that goes next to a whole bunch of power and stuff that ends up, receiving EMI from the solenoid on the card eject slot. Stuff that's handling data for the LCD, stuff that's handling power for the LCD backlight. It's just, and I assumed that was because they didn't really have electronics in the touchscreen section for the most part, but they've got a whole custom circuit board with plenty of spare space in there, so it seems pretty weird that they didn't put the touchscreen controller in the folding half of the machine. They put it on the motherboard instead. That seems super weird, especially since now that I know the controller is serial and not some other weird protocol, like it would be very easy for them to just use fewer wires even and have a more reliable signal. So it's very weird design. I don't know why they did it that way. Oh gosh, this poor VM. I zoomed this PDF and now it's paging like crazy. Let's see if I can SSH in and kill that from my phone. Yeah, SSH is connecting very slowly. Am I gonna have to reboot this VM on like every stream? I might give it a minute to recover and just look up this file on my phone instead of on the machine there. Yeah, so this PDF that's open that I was trying to zoom in is a document that I think would have come with a development kit for this chip that the microscope is focused on. Gosh, maybe they just took too much of a cue from the evaluation kit. The evaluation kit includes a diagram with, it shows a long serial cable between a chunky old like AT PC and a big circuit board, and then a long cable from the big circuit board to the touchscreen overlay, and then the touchscreen overlay on a CRT. And they show what looks like an 1/8" audio jack being used as a power plug here. I hope that's not right. I hope that's just the wrong graphic. And then they have screenshots that look a lot like the software we have. Well, I had this working yesterday enough to try it in a couple of DOS programs. It worked in Edit and SimCity, and I could run the calibrator in DOS. It wasn't working under Windows. I think the Windows drivers I have installed might just be faulty though, because like the control panel for them should be appearing and it's not. I had some Windows drivers that were technically for a different machine, but I think they might be compatible as long as I use the lower level driver that goes with this machine. But that seems like a bit more complicated than just finding a way to get the package I've got working as intended. I don't think that machine's gonna recover. Gosh. Duh. Tuco, can I sit next to you? Tuco makes this awkward. They've got like a primer on how touchscreens, or how resistive touchscreens at least work. Hmm. This is the kind we've got. They're so unergonomic sometimes. Interesting. I thought they were designed around like 4 sides per layer, but it's like 2 sides per layer still, but with 4-wire voltage measurement. That's good at least. Like this minimizes the impact of having a super long wire. And it would be super useful to have this for a touchscreen voting machine, which is of course a bad idea anyway, but like not even using a touchscreen that has any drift compensation would have certainly made it worse. Okay, anyway. Oh, there's a troubleshooting section. This is what we did last time that might have mostly been responsible for fixing it. Anyway, I was going to look up what these commands are maybe doing. Okay, so those bytes 1 and D are the framing, but then the 50 and 18 are command bytes. .50 is new 3-byte packet. Oh, that sets the protocol. I guess there's only one protocol. So that seems like a useful thing to do for initialization for compatibility purposes, but I'm guessing it's not super necessary. So the 50 is this command. 18 is a rejection level setting. Oh, and okay, it's actually this whole setting word. Oh, that's right. Okay. These are both packed words, so this is not just the 3-byte packet. It's 3-byte packet, 1200 baud, down and up. Interesting. So that's what we were seeing with the voting machine software running. I was looking at the serial bus and only seeing touch down and up, but running SimCity with the DOS driver, it was actually getting continuous touches since we had the EEPROM set up for that. Cool, so it is just this. I don't see any mismatches so far between the hardware and what this document is describing. So let's see, rejection level 20, and then 8-wire screen, auto averaging on, for sample averaging, which is different than what we had it set to here. Okay, maybe the next thing to look at is just the analog signals going at the touchscreen. Since the driver situation seems fine now, this might just be a problem with the touchscreen itself. Way to go. to go. wonder if we have a short. So I still don't really know what I'm looking at with these waveforms for the touchscreen sampling, but going from how it's an 8-wire touchscreen, I've got these 2 plates, each of which have 4 wires. The 4 wires are a pair for each side. So those 2 wires in the pair should be at roughly the same potential. And I was seeing that on most of these, but not on one of these pins. I'm going to call out which numbers these are. And this is noisy because I'm not being careful about grounding. I just need to get a rough idea of what these are like. So this is pin 1, pin 2, that's 1 again, and 2. Here's 3, which I don't know if it's supposed to be this low level. And here's 4. So 3 and 4 are pretty similar, 1 and 2 are pretty similar. This is 5, which is worrying. Here's 6, which is less worrying. Oh, 7 looks a lot like 6. Oh, maybe the pairs are oriented differently on the other side. Oh, here's 8. And 7. Okay, 8 and 7 look like they're actually the same. But so does 6. Okay, that's weird. So 6, 7, and 8 look the same. 5 is near ground. And with a touch, there's a little on 5. I stopped calling these out, sorry. That one that was busted is 5, this is 4. That seems fine. There's 3, I should let 2 go in. There's 2. There's 1. So certainly one theory that could explain this is that maybe we had a transistor or a transient suppressor or something like that fail into a state which is grounding one of these pins. Tuco. If that's going on, I don't know why this would be an intermittent failure though. Tuco, what you doing? Ow. Pointy. Tuco, we can barely see you back there. I need to read about how these are supposed to work, really. Oh, there's OS2 drivers. Oh yeah, there's an option for a mouse pass-through on this. This explains why one of those serial signals is inverted and the other isn't. Oh, I thought Tuco would want the red chair. Custom microcontroller brain. A schematic. Beautiful. So the connectors on this board don't have anything to do with what's here, but presumably the folks who designed this machine copied the parts they wanted off of here and designed their own wiring layout. So instead of this dual connector thing, we have the sense lines and the excitation lines interspersed, which is probably less good for EMI, but whatever. These folks mostly don't seem to care about EMI. And this has got the weird 3.5mm jack for power. Hmm. 12 and 13, is that what I've got? think the pins we were grabbing were RB6 and 7. Yes. This actually doesn't explain why the polarities are reversed. Because at least according to this diagram, this would be regular TTL. I wonder if these folks got customized firmware. Hmm. I wonder if that's the same layout they used. This PDF viewer is driving me nuts. The reference voltages. Even looks like the same basic kind of Molex connector. Yeah, SSOP. Okay. I wonder if this is something to do with the reference power supply on the ADC, or maybe it is just a short somewhere. I'm going to try measuring this in circuit, but with no real expectation that the values are going to be reliable. You know, it sure looked like there was some kind of transistor circuit connected to the touchscreen on the back of the panel, but those might have actually just been transient suppression diodes, because I don't see anything like this in here. I figured those might have been something or other to drive the excitation voltages, but it looks like their scheme for driving the excitation voltages here has to do with using the analog mux to connect them to different reference voltages. Yeah, next time we're probing around with the scope, it'd be nice to probe the A to D converter. Oh. This is the transistor I saw connected to reset. What is that doing again? Oh, maybe that's how it gets out of sleep mode. Yeah, wake up transistor. Okay. That's how it gets out of sleep mode. It's possible something's going wrong with that, but we should have that feature disabled. It would have been nicer if that was connected to a GPIO somewhere, maybe. Maybe they also have a GPIO for resetting it. Yeah, it's like 20 ohms between the Y excitation and Y sense. About the same, slightly different for the other Y sense on the opposite side. X excitation minus, which is the one that includes that pin that seemed stuck to ground, is showing about a mega ohm. and then X excitation plus on the opposite side is showing like 15 ohms. So yeah, all of those are showing something in the vicinity of like 15 to 20 ohms, except for that one that was seemingly stuck. Now, what about resistance to ground? Uh, 400k to ground in that polarity. Hmm. 2 megs the other way. So it's probably not a short. Right, let's try unplugging this connector. Should be grounded. Might be interesting to see how this behaves with an open connector. Way to go. Okay, just testing the cable again. Got a solid connection on pin 8. Solid pin 7. Solid pin 6. Pin 5 is fine. 4 is fine. And 3, 2, 1. Okay, I'm testing across the sense and excitation for each side of the touchscreen, which was the same thing I was doing before, but now I'm doing it with it disconnected from the controller. Ohms, 17 ohms. Ooh. 14 kiloohms. 14 ohms. Is that reproducible on the other side? This might be as simple as I need to clean the connector that goes into the touchscreen. Ohms. Whoa, why is that different again? Now I'm getting 36 ohms. Oh yeah, this changes wildly if I just touch the cable. The flat flex cable here. I'm just gonna unplug it and plug it back in. That might be why it seems to work for a while and then like between sessions it breaks, because I'll move the screen to like set it down or pick it up. they fabricated this whole board for the back of the LCD. It's got, we'll have to look closer at that, but I assume that's transient suppression for the touchscreen. They're labeled Q though, like transistors. This is just an LVDS receiver that converts this. This is like high-speed serial. This is like a few hundred megahertz or something. It converts that out to 24-bit parallel to run the LCD. This is the high voltage power supply up off the top for the backlight tubes. Yeah, I don't know what those transistor looking things are on the left. Huh. Let's test some resistances. Ohms. Ohms. Fluctuating. It's like 400 something and changing. So yeah, we still need to work on that one. And 13 ohms. Now let's see if any of this is connected. It's possible this is just unrelated circuitry that decided to put right next to the touchscreen connector. Oh, there's a sticker on this touchscreen that I missed. There's actually a bunch of stickers on this thing. Also, the board has this Sequoia voting assembly number printed fairly big. Rev A. But there's a sticker down here on this cable. You can see a bit of tarnishing on that connector or on the cable. And that little spot where the lamination is bubbled up under the flexure. Oh, is that the kind of connector that has a door on the top? I assumed it was just press fit. Maybe maybe that's hinged. Oh, I think this is a kind of connector that's designed to just be assembled once and then stay on the end of this flex cable. Right, like you can unplug it from this header, but this would be a good chance to see if there's anything else in circuit. Assume all this stuff is unrelated and this is just a straight through connection, because that would match the reference schematic I've got and that would be simpler. I just don't know what all these transistors are for. I'm gonna have to assume they're for turning on and off the backlight or something. And if that's the case, that's a very silly thing to put right next to all this sensitive analog stuff. Oh. There seems to be something on the back I can probe. Cool, 20 ohms there. 18 ohms. There's the bad one again, 5.9 kilo ohms. 4.8 kilo ohms, yeah, whatever. And then the last one was 13. Okay, so where is the conductive material? It's between two layers, right? Neither side actually has the conductive ink exposed. actually just puncture this so that I can probe it, but I don't want to break it. Oh, it looks like this side actually has a really thin film on it. Ooh, let's look at this bend. This is a manufacturing defect. Or a design flaw, maybe. So yeah, this is made from a couple of layers of plastic with adhesive and some kind of printed conductive ink. And this is where the assembly was in a bend. Not a really tight bend, just like maybe an inch diameter bend for a while. But it caused the film to buckle on one side and separate. And now it's let moisture in and it's corroding. So this could be the problem. It's not really like localized around the pins that are most having problems though. So I think this is pin 5. Anyway, there's a definite gap there. It really couldn't hurt to peel off the top layer here, and then we could replace it and have a better place to probe. This LVDS cable's in the way. Seems alright. Yeah, I'm glad that came off the header. This would be really annoying if it was permanently attached to that circuit board. Summon my nicest tweezers for this. Maybe not my nicest. The nicest ones I'm willing to get some adhesive on. Oh, maybe my tweezers are all disorganized. Ooh, can I just spudge this open? I'm trying to be really gentle to this printed conductor. So if this does go completely badly, I'm actually going to tape down the section that's a little closer to the display so that it doesn't, so I don't have any chance of messing up that. If I need to, I can like open up this whole section of the cable, and everything is so giant here, I can repair this with conductive epoxy. I mean, that's probably what we're going to have to do. I don't know where the problem is, if it's here or in the connector, but either way, conductive epoxy seems like the way to repair this. I don't know if I have any that's actually fresh, but I'll have to look. Maybe there's some like DIY alternatives to conductive epoxy you can use. This doesn't need to be extremely conductive. It's already pretty open. I don't know where my good tweezers are. These are not them. Oh wow, some of this is more corroded than I expected. That's not a good sign. This touchscreen might be seriously corroded elsewhere. Well. What's to do about that? I mean, even through this part of the cable, that was not great, but it was significantly different than the several kiloohms we were getting through the connector. Right, like there's touchscreen aging, and then there's just like a bad connection in the plug. It's suspicious that those are both happening on the same pin. I wonder if there's something about how this is driven that causes that pin to experience more like galvanic stress. Or maybe it's just the position in the connector got kind of unlucky with the bend. I don't know. So that's 3 ohms. I don't know. So that's like 5 ohms. That's like 44 ohms. I think whatever the intermittent problem with the connector is, I just did something to make it stop happening, because now the connector is measuring 47 ohms, which is consistent with the like potentially slightly flaky touchscreen that we've got, but does not have that additional several K of connector flakiness. Okay. I don't know what to put on this to temporarily, or rather, maybe permanently protect it again. It's tempting to use something like packing tape, but I'm worried that if I want to take that off again, that it'll rip off the ink too. I was worried about this tarnishing, but it doesn't seem to be an electrical problem yet, and it seems to be pretty surface level, so I don't think it's worth trying to cover it. I might try to use like E6000 glue or something. Something that's flexible and a good insulator and would keep the air out. I mean, if this connector problem is something that I expect to come back, which it probably is, it might be worth bridging from the connector to this part of the cable with a bit of wire and conductive epoxy. Oh man, I'm slightly out of ideas for this stream, which maybe means it's a good time to wrap it up for today. So yeah, of the... Could use more light for the Tuco, huh? So yeah, of the many problems with this system that we could fix, there are a couple with the touchscreen. There's this, what seems like just an intermittent connector problem now. There's also still something wrong with the Windows 3.1 drivers. It could just be we've got to install another driver package also. I think that there's something installed that should work, but it's just not loading, so maybe there's some kind of log we can check. What else? The storage situation is annoying, but good enough for what I wanted to use this computer for. I wanted to try to do some retro microcontroller programming on this, and I've got a 64 megabyte compact flash card completely working in DOS and Windows 3.1. And it's not great, but it's enough for that, I think. It's a little small for Windows 95. Otherwise, this machine would actually probably run Windows 95 just fine. It's got 32 megs of RAM, it's a 486. It's just that the hard disk is very small right now. What else? I wanted to try to get the screen rotation working. Maybe that would be a fun thing to do while trying to figure out what to do to tackle the touchscreen next. Yeah, maybe let's do something completely just on the computer for a minute and not fuss with this touchscreen. Let's make a backup of this card. I think I was going to back up the actual card, but this image I've already got is new enough for this next thing I want to do. Maybe. There's a config file I wanted to look at, and I don't know if it would actually be updated on there. What's going on here? That's always a good sign. Okay, yeah, so this will actually have the drivers that we had chosen. So it has the installed driver for this graphics chip, the Chips and Technologies 65550. And it's got the touchscreen driver that isn't working. And way down here at the bottom, enticing us, below the display section even, is this display driver section with display orientation in it. So that's interesting, right? I tried changing that and it wasn't working, but maybe we can do a quick investigation to see what's actually going on there. So it'd be fun to dive into a disassembly, although maybe more productive to first just see what I've got in the way of actual user documentation for this. That's a good question. Someone's asking if I have any plans to run OS2. You know, I've actually never run OS2. I'd probably want to first start in an emulator before I try it on a physical machine, but I didn't have any to run on, or didn't have any plans to run anything other than maybe Windows DOS or Linux on this thing, but there might be some options. The kind of major goal that I had for this particular object was to get it working well enough that I could use it to program some retro microcontrollers by running an old version of MPLAB. And it's probably technically almost there already. I was having some trouble getting it to enable the options for the programmer that I want, but I think all the hardware is there. I think I just need to fuss with the software a little bit. It's just a little annoying not having a pointing device. And it would be nice to have the touchscreen rotated so that I could mount it back in the original enclosure. Oh, I wonder if this LVDS interface application note is basically the expansion board they built for this. C581. think this is the same serializer. I think we already grabbed a datasheet for the serializer anyway, and it was fine. It was a serializer datasheet. Let's see, there are all these help files. I think I even installed that. I keep doing the thing where I'm holding down shift when this boots. That's better. There's a question about whether I could put a stiffener on the cable there to keep it from flexing right there. Yeah, I think whatever I put on there to protect it again, now that I've torn off the original failing covering, whatever I put on there is going to be a little bit stiffer anyway. Oh, you know what? I've got some clear nail polish right here, which might be perfect. It'll keep it rigid and it'll keep the air out. So I might put some of this on once we're done probing it. Is there not the help file? Did I not install the help file? I wouldn't expect the help file to explain the INI file options. All right, that was like a mode list. That went into Windows System. Yeah, this is just the stuff that's already obvious. Thanks. Gosh, documentation. Tell me about OK. What does OK do? Okay, whatever. Not quite sure what the distinction is between win.ini and system.ini. System.ini seems to be about drivers, but also some other stuff. I don't know. Maybe drivers and program loading. Yeah. I was looking briefly for the chips stuff, but none of that is here because we've never actually booted this Windows installation with that driver. Well, I see no meaningful documentation for this. Where did I put all this? So, a bunch of references to that in these ini files. In that same display driver section that's kind of notated weirdly. Yeah, so I don't know how these get activated on Windows normally, these port left and port right. I think these might be, I don't know, like something like if an OEM is making a driver package for a particular laptop, they could include those, but I don't think there's a like an end user interface for this as it stands. Maybe you could edit this to give yourself different modes. I just don't know what the correspondence is between the the term. Oh, okay, so whatever's this last token in the line, I guess, matches a section here. So maybe you can write a mode that has one of these sections and like a port left or port right section. So I don't know, maybe that overrides whatever's in the system ini. I tried just editing system ini. Figured we'd see that in one of the driver files, though. Unless this is a case issue. Is there a separate driver for portrait modes? That would kind of make sense, just given, like, these early graphics drivers were often just very customized for a specific video mode, because they'd have code that was, you know, like unrolled at assembly time or whatever. And so, like, what this is doing is loading little overlays for different color depths. Maybe they also have overlays for portrait orientation, and I don't know if I have that, but that's interesting. I think these were INI, like system INI options. Like, I think that was a section, and these are options within that section. So how is this driver even put together? We have DLLs, we have drive files, we have control panels, or a control panel. We have these 2GR, 3GR, and 386 files. VDDD, this is for something for DOSBox maybe, hooked virtual 86. That one's really small. Yeah, grabber. I don't know what this means. Grab event. Oh, is this literally for like grabbing a window and moving it around the screen? Is this like a special driver that gets loaded just during a grab event maybe? I'm gonna look at this a bit more. I'm worried that this portrait mode is a feature of some add-in for this driver that I don't actually have. be really surprised if there's a non-video driver specific way to do this in Windows. I mean, like in Windows of this vintage. Like either 3.1 or 95, really. Huh, LCD stretch utility. Interesting. This one stretches text modes by default, but it doesn't stretch graphics modes. Are these like resources that are being loaded into the graphics driver? These are those grabber overlays we were looking at, and then the Windows boot logo, I assume. Oh, here they're even capitalized, just like they are in the driver. This could be a bit of a deal breaker for the thing I wanted to use this for if I can't rotate the screen. I might have to switch operating systems or get more creative with the drivers here. don't know if Microsoft even ever really properly documented Windows 3.1 drivers, or video drivers at least. If it's worth taking a tangent to just see how well Linux does on here. It's not quite the thing that I wanted to do, but yeah, I don't know what to do about the screen rotation if this driver doesn't actually support that. I have a Windows 95 driver for this chip too. I wonder if the Windows 95 driver would support rotation. How does that work again? I know it seems unlikely that random self-extractors are going to try to mess with my Linux file system, but it seems like good practice to get into. Config, okay. to do this on a different. I just wanted to extract this and look at and see what kind of features it might have. Interesting. I guess that just wasn't documented in the built-in help. -T floppy. about that floppy drive now. Okay, so we've got a VXD, we got some other stuff. Got a nice INF file. Chips 95. Really? What is that MSCSD? That's weird. Oh. That's weird. MSCSD95.sys as a system hidden and read-only file. That's pretty weird. I'm guessing that's something that helps Windows identify this as a driver disk, like Microsoft something or other software distribution 95 or something like that. Is this direct draw? Yeah. It's a thunk driver. This is a 16-bit direct draw thing that calls into the 32-bit driver, I'm assuming. Video port manager. Yeah, this chip has an interesting feature where you can stream video into it from another device on the bus. This was a somewhat popular laptop feature in the 90s with the assumption that you'd stick a television tuner or like an MPEG accelerator or something on the bus, and then it would have a way of sending that data directly to your video card. I don't know how many people actually use that, but these chips seem to have support for it in all the drivers. Duco, what you want? Oh, don't scratch that. Oh, that's an interesting idea. There's Windows for pen computing add-ons. I don't know how Windows would rotate the screen without the video driver basically doing the whole job, though. Just architecturally, I don't know how that would work otherwise. Huh. DOS 386. Oh, Tuco's getting all purry. Oh. Yeah, the Windows 95 drivers don't seem to be any better. Oh, that's interesting. Someone from Twitch says there was a way to do portrait mode in DOS with a particular monitor. Was that a... how would that have worked? I assume that it was more like the way like widescreen DVDs were, where it just like squished the aspect ratio. Well, I'm a little bit out of ideas for what to do about the display rotation. It seems like if we want to get this working in Windows, we'd need to find sort of a unicorn driver configuration, which I thought we might have actually had, but maybe we don't. And DOS also seems like kind of a non-starter, since it would all be extremely application specific, and it's not like any of the applications would support portrait mode. So maybe I give up on my idea of using the voting machine to run MPLab comfortably and instead install Linux on this thing. I don't know. I wonder if it would work to run MPLab under Wine on Linux on a machine with this little RAM. That feels like a huge cheat, though. Huh. Tuco, you're playing hard to see now. Alright, well, I think that's it for today. I'll try to figure out what to do next on here to keep this moving. We could also switch to working on something else, but I wanted to at least get this to a particular milestone and then get it off my desk, because it does take up a lot of space. Anyway, thanks for joining. I will see you on the next stream, which should be sometime tomorrow. I've been trying to stream every day on YouTube and Twitch and Diode Zone. Oh, Tuco, don't walk on that. Honey, no. Gosh. All right. See you next time.